Does Yuji have a curse technique to evolve and adapt the same way Mahoraga does? Let's talk about it. Alrighty, y'all. So where this is coming from is Seth reached out to me and wanted to sponsor this video for me to react to this theory from Reddit about Yuji having a curse technique like Mahoraga. And again, here's the link for Reddit for anyone that hates themselves enough to copy that by hand. But if you happen to be watching on YouTube, I will link it down in the pinned comments below. That being said, we'll get into this, but before we do, I need to give a spoiler warning. If you're not caught up on the manga, this theory dives into manga stuff. So anime onlys, you probably want to skip this one. All right, so I originally set out to read this Reddit post like along with you guys and go over it that way, but I don't even know how to explain to you just how long this theory is. It is one of the longest Reddit posts I've ever read. And you know what? I'm here for it. I love a good in-depth theory, but it's far too long for me to go over with you guys and kind of react point by point. So I'm going to have to give you a very, very brief overview and then kind of my main beef with it because I do not agree with this theory at all. But the theory is essentially that Yuji secretly has this curse technique and it is adaptability just like Mahoraga. Now, some of the main points brought up about this are first and foremost, Yuji's ability to suppress sukuna. They think that is his curse technique adapting to sukuna. And in addition to that, whatever that phenomena is for sukuna, he recognized that in Megami when that moment early on in the manga when he like recognizes when Megami is about to summon Mahoraga, he has that light bulb moment of seeing Megami's potential, right? So the OP is connecting that to Mahoraga's adaptability and then connecting that to Yuji. Like there's a similarity there that Sukuna recognized, and that's why he's interested in Megami. So I really disagree with like the logic behind it. Here's what I'll say, that obviously in that moment, Sukuna recognized the potential within Megami. He saw that he was about to summon Mahoraga, and you got to remember that Sukuna wasn't really familiar with Mahoraga at this point. He was simply, in my opinion, recognizing the potential within Megami to be like a powerful person, if you will. Megami had the potential to wield great power. And so in that moment, Sukuna realized maybe this kid has the potential to hold me as well. So he was recognizing Megami's potential as a vessel. If there was a similarity between Mahoraga's adaptiveness and Yuji, if anything to me, that would make Sukuna not want to pursue Megami because he could also contain him just like Yuji. So the next few things this dissertation goes over is like how Yuji has adapted to things just like Mahoraga throughout the story. Again, the first one being Sukuna himself, but I just disagree. I think Yuji has a unique capability to cage Sukuna that has nothing to do with a secret curse technique. There's a whole bunch of theories as to why Yuji is a cage. A big prominent one is that he and Sukuna are related. I made a video recently on the fact that they might be conjoined twins. I would definitely think something like that is more likely than having an adaptive curse technique like Mahoraga. But in addition to that, he talks about how Yuji is more resilient seemingly to Sukuna's slashes, and he thinks that's because Yuji has adapted to them after being struck by them on 4 separate occasions or something like that. The Reddit post makes a big deal about the number 4, saying that's how many spins of the Dharma Chakra wheel it takes for Mahoraga to adapt, and that's how many times Yuji like gets slashed by Sukuna before he adapts. But first, I don't even think that the 4 Dharma Chakra wheel spins is like something that we hard know as fact. He's pulling that from that's how many Sukuna needed to adapt to infinity, right? But I think it just depends on what's being adapted to for how many spins it takes. I don't think it takes 4 spins for everything, but that's not even the point of this video. I think instead Yuji's resilience to Sukuna's slashes, if we can call it that, is because he is soaked in Sukuna's cursed energy. Just like we learned during the Gojo Sukuna fight that Gojo's hollow purple affected him less because it was his own cursed energy. That explanation seems way more plausible in Yuji's case because he's soaked in Sukuna's cursed energy, so the slashes might not affect him as much. But even all of that aside, we know Yuji to be a physical specimen, right? He is very similar to a heavenly restriction, and I'll make another video on that soon because that got brought up in the most recent chapter. But I think the cursed energy plus just his better body, his more durable body, could way easier explain his resilience to Sukuna's slashes. Another point that was brought up is the cursed womb death paintings that he and Nobara fought in season 1, how Yuji was more resistant to their poison damage and to the damage he was taking. Again, I think that's just attributed to his stronger body and also his resistance to poisons, which we know he has since he could eat Sukuna's finger to begin with. Another big problem I have with this theory, and also a lot of like Yuji secretly has a curse technique theories, is that Gojo would have known, right? The Six Eyes can tell what somebody's curse technique is when they're using cursed energy. And early on in the story, Gojo tells us that, hey, you don't have one. You have to be born with one. But he then says, but eventually you'll probably get Sukunas. And again, knowing where we are in the story now, Yuji pretty much has blood manipulation, almost 100% confirmed. It's all been explicitly stated, right? But he didn't have blood manipulation back in the start of the story. I think he only got that because he ate the cursed womb death painting. So this isn't to say that Yuji could never have a curse technique, but rather he didn't when the story first started. And Gojo's Six Eyes should be a pretty big indicator of that. Like Gojo would have known, right? But part of this Mahoraga Yuji curse technique theory is that he did have it, and Yuji's grandpa was like suppressing Yuji's cursed energy and curse technique to like hide him from the world, to protect him, whatever. And then only when his grandpa died, Yuji started opening up to the world of sorcery. But I think that's way more far-fetched than just what we're given in the show, that Yuji didn't have, that type of talent, if you will, until he ate Sukuna's finger, which gave him cursed energy. Now, he had some cursed energy prior, like all humans do, except, people like Toji and Maki, but he didn't even have enough to see curses. He only saw curses once everyone was getting close to death. Then he could see them. And then, of course, after he eats Sukuna's finger and gains even more cursed energy, he can see curses like everybody else. So I think that's far more likely to be explained by eating Sukuna's finger than by his grandpa like holding him back his whole life. So then the theory starts talking about how Mahoraga isn't a Shikigami, or at least wasn't originally a Shikigami. It was a person that then became Mahoraga after being, trapped in the shadows for however long and adapting, eventually became Mahoraga. And specifically, that person was related to Yuji. Because you remember after Sukuna takes Megami's body, he and Uruume are flying away, and they're making fun of Yuji, and Sukuna says, like, remember that guy from Harima? And it was originally mistranslated as, like, the Harima statue or whatever, but apparently he's saying, remember that guy from Harima? Well, the OP of this theory is saying whoever that guy was from Harima became Mahoraga and is Mahoraga. So again, they're related. Yuji and this person are related, and they both share this adaptability technique, right? So yeah, that wouldn't be my guess. So I'm not trying to throw shade. Like, I love a good out there theory, especially one that has this much thought put into it, this much evidence and conjecture that they're all connecting together. I'm here for it, but I just personally don't see it. The theory then goes on to talk about how Kenjaku was involved in all of this, and it goes on to talk about how Sukuna and Yuji could be brothers, and how that plays into it. I'm doing a bad job paraphrasing, but again, we're talking about walls and walls of text here, so I'm doing the best I can. This video is already pretty long, but I would recommend that if you're into this type of thing, you love a good in-depth theory, to go read it for yourself, draw your own conclusions, but for me, I disagree. I think these are very complex answers to questions that have far simpler explanations, in my opinion. Finally, y'all, I just want to give another shout out to Seth for sponsoring this video. Thank you so much for the support, man. And for those of you that do take the time to go read this, let me know your thoughts on it.